So yeah, so you mentioned before about the rows that it's also about grabbing an object in your in OVR technology, that you can grab the object, and as it comes closer to you, it can become more potent, the smell. So this was very important to me to hear, that you could actually have a experience where you get closer to a smell and it can get the experience can change. So why do you think this function is important for your device? And you already provided another example, but maybe you have more.
Yeah. So, and this really, so I'll kind of answer that question and a question that you didn't ask.
Okay.
But this really gets at kind of one of the things that's so exciting about digital scent and digital scent in the metaverse. I think that when a conversation about digital scent first arises, the thing that pops into a lot of people's minds is, oh, that's so cool. I can smell grandma's house, or I can smell the beach. So I think the first idea is, oh, I can replicate things from my past or my memory in the physical world. I can replicate them in the digital world. And although that may be true sometimes, it's very difficult. And I think I would argue the least interesting thing that you could do with it. The same way that over our lifetimes, every time we have an experience, we kind of equate the emotion and the memory of that experience with a scent. Now we can do that in the digital world. And so rather than replicating the physical world and saying, oh, we're going to have just a rose and a marshmallow, but it's going to be digital, we have created essentially a whole new alphabet, or a whole new palette of kind of primary aromas that are digitally native, that can be combined in different combinations and permutations to create uniquely digital associations and experiences that don't necessarily have to map to our own memories and our own experiences. And because scent is so subjective, what is the smell of the forest to me might be very different than the smell of the forest to you, based on where you grew up, and we all have different nose architecture. So so really, like, for us, it's about giving people the tools to create, experience, and share a whole new category of multisensory experiences that take place in the metaverse, that take place in the digital world, and then we can build on those. I mean, if you kind of think like, if you look at how much more digital we've become over the last decade, and we think, okay, in another 3, 4, 5, 10 years, more and more of our experiences, our entertainment, our social, our educational experiences are going to take place in these immersive environments. And how can we make those genuine experiences, genuine memories, and genuine interactions, rather than just replications of a physical world that is, familiar to us?
So you're not just talking about taking, like what you said, a forest. Maybe I walk through the forest myself, and then I want to replicate that experience, whether that's filming it and then capturing the smell. But you're saying actually making memories in this metaverse and making new smells for that experience. Okay. Very
Exactly. Yeah.
interesting. And have you already, so you've already done this then? You've already had these kinds of experiences?
Yeah. And I think it's worth pointing out that in the very beginning of the company, our goal was to recreate familiar smells as accurately as possible. But what we found was that actually created kind of an uncanny valley. We can use GCMS, we can use a lot of analytical instruments to identify what an odor is and recreate it in a digital space, but that didn't actually create the type of experience we wanted to create and what we were expecting. And what we found is that if you give someone a tool to be able to create a smell that maybe is reminiscent of or familiar in a certain way, but is brand new for that experience, it actually creates a more kind of immersive and in many ways realistic experience. So, when we think about VR, AR, or the metaverse, there's all different kind of ways you can assemble the audio and the visual, from very, very realistic to completely conceptual. And so there might be instances of quite realistic experiences like walking through the forest, but rather than just trying to replicate a very specific forest in the physical world, having a palette of odors that you can combine to create something forest-ish but emotionally foresty, is what we have had the most luck with, and what we think the most exciting application is. I think a really interesting, if we go back in time, a really interesting parallel is the invention of artificial flavors. Now, I don't like to compare us to artificial flavors because I feel like that sends the wrong message. But in the 1850s, when the first few artificial flavors were invented, I think it was a grape and banana and apple or something like that, and they were showcased at to the public in the form of candy. People tried them and were like, "Oh, well, that's not really like an apple or like really like a grape, but it's fruity and it's delicious. I love it. Let's let's go with this." And you fast forward to now, an artificial flavor is in everything, whether it's on the label or not, everything. And in some cases, it's more on the biomimicry side, on the realistic side, and sometimes it's totally abstract and artistic. But the point is that there's kind of like these two separate paths. You don't buy Jolly Ranchers because you want to taste exactly like real watermelon. You buy them because they're their own interesting, unique thing that you can't get in nature.
Yeah, and that also goes a little bit back to that multisensory experience of,
Yes.
yeah, that it's not necessarily just about that piece of candy that you eat, but kind of it's more than that. So yeah, that's really interesting.